This is how you separate a genuine 1920s Art Deco brass escutcheon, that decorative door plate around your keyhole or handle, from a reproduction that was stamped out last year. In part 1 of my Art Deco authentication series, I'll help you understand where this style came from, who actually made it, names like Yale and Towne, Sargent and Corbin, and how to prove the plate in your hand is real solid brass instead of cheap plated steel or zinc alloy die cast. The one twist that catches most people off guard is that the homeowner who installed a 1920s Art Deco brass door plate in 1926 never once called it Art Deco because the name did not exist yet. That single fact turns into one of your sharpest tools for spotting fakes. But before you can use it, you need to understand what you're actually holding. So, let me take you back to the moment this whole style was born. Art Deco has a birthday. It's April 28, 1925. The day the International Exhibition of Modern Decorative and Industrial Arts opened its gates in Paris. The French called it the Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes. Roughly 16 million people streamed through its 130 buildings and 75 pavilions across a single 6-month run. France ran that show on purpose, backed by its ministries of commerce and fine arts, with one main goal: to prove French design still led the world. The style those pavilions showed off carried a specific logic. Straight lines replaced curves, symmetry replaced the flowing chaos of the earlier Art Nouveau period, and designers reached for manufactured materials instead of natural ones, all because those clean geometric forms were far easier for machines to reproduce. That one idea, beauty built for mass production, is the reason Art Deco ended up on everything from towering skyscrapers, think the Chrysler Building in New York, completed in 1930, with its eagle gargoyles and sunburst crown, down to the modest brass escutcheon screwed onto an ordinary bedroom door. The influence crossed the Atlantic fast. Herbert Hoover, then the United States Secretary of Commerce, sent an entire commission over to Paris to study what the Europeans were doing, and American manufacturers carried the lessons home. Within a few years, the boom of the 1920s had translated that Paris vocabulary into an American accent, and the look stayed dominant for roughly the next 15 years, running straight through the good times and into the hard years of the Depression. The timing lines up with the book you already know. The Great Gatsby reached shelves in April of 1925, the very same year as the Paris Exposition, and Fitzgerald's world of flappers and easy money and a spirit of frivolity is the exact mood this hardware was designed to dress up. When people call these door plates Great Gatsby style, they are closer to the truth than they realize. Back to that twist about the name. Nobody in 1925 walked into a hardware store asking for Art Deco anything. Depending on who you asked, the look went by modernistic or modern or jazz modern or zigzag, but none of those names stuck the way Art Deco has. The term Art Deco did not take hold until 1968, when a 28-year-old English historian named Beavis Hillier published a book titled Art Deco of the 20s and 30s and finally handed the whole movement a single label. Hillier called it the last of the total styles, one that touched everything from skyscrapers and luxury liners to powder compacts, thermos flasks, lampposts, and letterboxes. 3 years later, in 1971, he curated a major show at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts that shoved the name into the mainstream for good. That naming detail matters to a collector for one very practical reason. It works as a dating tool, which means a factory stamp reading Art Deco points you toward a later reproduction rather than a piece born in the 1920s, since the term simply was not in circulation back then. A label like that is a quiet confession about the real age of the object. The genuine Art Deco design language is assembled from a handful of repeating shapes, and you'll spot them instantly once you know them. Watch for chevrons, those repeating V-shapes, along with zigzags, sunbursts, fan shapes, and stepped pyramids that climb like tiny ziggurats. The grand version of that sunburst crowned the entrance to the gallery's Lafayette Pavilion at the 1925 fair, and the humble version radiates out from the keyhole on a plain bedroom door plate. Genuine Deco-era residential door plates were very often stamped from thin sheet brass rather than cast as heavy solid pieces. Thin does not mean fake. The Russwin Company sold a pattern named Clio, stamped in brass, right through the 1930s. Those plates were built to be affordable hardware for ordinary homes during lean economic years. On top of that, chrome was the true signature metal of the era, so chrome-plated brass hardware from the period is completely authentic, not some modern alteration somebody did to your antique later on. Then when you flip a plate over, the back turns into a history book. American hardware from this era came from a roster of names worth memorizing because their maker's marks are one of your strongest authentication tools. The heavy hitters include Yale and Towne, founded in Stamford, Connecticut, Sargent, Russell, and Irwin; P&F Corbin, founded in 1849 in New Britain, Connecticut; Russwin, Reading Hardware, Lockwood, Norwalk, Hopkins and Dickinson, Branford Lock Works, Barrows Lock Company, and Mallory Wheeler. Corbin Russwin, one of the survivors, founded all the way back to 1839, still turns out commercial door hardware today. Those marks, along with any patent dates or production numbers, usually sit stamped on the back or the inside of an original piece. Admittedly, a missing mark does not automatically brand a plate as fake, because plenty of genuine antique hardware left the factory carrying no stamp at all, and there was never any law forcing a maker to sign its work. One more name earns a place in this video, and it explains a mechanical clue hiding inside your door. In 1920, a German-born engineer named Walter Schlag founded his lock company in San Francisco, and he filed a patent for a push-button lock built into a cylinder. His bored cylindrical lock needed only a couple of holes drilled through the door, and it slowly began replacing the older, bulkier mortise lock on interior doors. Business moved fast for him, and by 1925, Schlage was turning out close to 20,000 push-button locks every single month. That history matters for your escutcheon for one reason. An authentic 1920s door plate was usually built around the older mortise lock, which is why you'll see a long plate with a skeleton keyhole rather than the round bored hole of a modern knob set. The shape of that opening is quietly telling you which era of lock technology the plate was born into. Now let's get to the first test you can actually run with your own hands. It is the fastest one too. Carry a small magnet with you because real brass is not magnetic. Brass is a blend of copper and zinc, and neither metal answers to a magnet. So if you hold one up to a plate and feel it grab, you are holding brass-plated steel rather than solid brass. That 5-second move has rescued countless collectors from overpaying at an estate sale. But the magnet test comes with 2 caveats, so don't get burned. First, some plated pieces use a zinc alloy base, sometimes called pot metal or zamac, a die-cast alloy, and zinc is also non-magnetic. So a plate that passes the magnet test still might not be solid brass. Second, a genuine solid brass plate can hold small steel screws or pins, and your magnet may tug at those isolated spots without meaning the whole piece is plated. The fix is simple. Test the plate in several different places before you settle on any verdict. When the magnet leaves you unsure, the metal underneath will tell the truth. Find a hidden spot on the back or along an edge, then look closely at any existing scratch or worn area. Solid brass keeps the same warm yellow-gold color all the way through, so a scratch just reveals more brass beneath it. Plating, on the other hand, is only a thin skin, and a scratch through it exposes a different metal underneath, usually a dull silver-gray steel or zinc. This is exactly why real solid brass ages so gracefully, since even its worn areas stay golden instead of flashing that cheap gray base. If you watch to here, you can already do something most flea market shoppers cannot. You can trace a geometric brass escutcheon back to the world that produced it, name the company that likely stamped it, and confirm with a magnet and a scratch that you're holding solid brass rather than plated steel. That alone will keep you from wasting money on the obvious junk. Solid brass, though, is only half the story because a solid brass plate can be cast brand new next week, which means real metal tells you nothing on its own about real age. In part 2 of this series, I'll show you how to prove a plate is genuinely old and genuinely from the Deco era by reading the patina and verdigris, the wear patterns, the screws, and even the sound it makes, and then we'll dig into what these little pieces of history actually sell for today. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.